Hello everybody and welcome to my updated Deathgivers tutorial video. The main difference with this build is instead of using dash on your W, you are now using chain slash. The reason for this is that you're able to output a lot of damage, and with the new nerfs to dash, its range is a lot shorter than it used to be and you're able to kite to a much lesser extent. The perks of this build is its damage that it's able to put out. The drawback is its lack of mobility and its vulnerability if you use your full combo. To counteract the lack of mobility, I'd recommend getting used to using your chain slash ability. Chain slash will put you towards your closest enemy if it's in this range. It will then teleport you to any enemies that are still in the range in order of closest to furthest. This can mess you up really badly if enemies switch positions. So let's say this crossbow player were to be right beside me. If he runs towards the swords player, instead of going towards the crossbow, I'd now go towards the swords, then the crossbow. It's just something you need to keep in mind. Also, if you're trying to chase somebody down, it can be very difficult at times. But usually people do not expect your damage and will not run away from you instantly. If you're fighting another Deathgivers player, this build also will give you a very high advantage over them. This can just be if you're trying to mess around with your friends or whatever. Still though, this build puts a much bigger skill cap on the Deathgivers than there already was, because you have to get used to being able to auto attack then W. Your W is an auto attack animation cancel, meaning that its auto attack goes out instantly if you like this. So if I auto attack then W, I think I'm silenced right now. Yeah, there we go. Auto attack W. See how my Thetford cape came out? The reason for you having to auto attack is because your Thetford cape will not proc on basic abilities, meaning that you have to auto attack. Also, if you get caught in the open, your only defensive is your assassin jacket, so you also have to get used to using that to a high degree of skill. You unlock chain slash at level 85, so you're going to have to put into a decent bit of time grinding up your daggers. That can be done with Bloodletter fairly easily, however, especially with the new Q. I would recommend using this build in arenas for sure, as it's much stronger than the dash build. And if you get used to it enough, you can start to bring it into the wide open world. I think that this build is better than the one with dash, personally, so that's just my personal preference. If you like to do damage more than kite, this build is definitely for you. Also, if you're able to chain your abilities correctly, you're able to stay invisible for 100% of the time versus most enemies in the time that takes you to kill them. If you can't kill an enemy in one spell cycle, I'd recommend just auto-attacking then Eing them first to poke them a little bit. Then afterwards, use your assassin jacket, and then once your keys are back up to full stacks, you can complete the combo with the auto-attack W, E, D, and then you would E again. As you can see versus that healer, it pumps out a ridiculous amount of damage ridiculously quickly. The only healer build that can 100% out-heal you if it's a good one is the Life Touch Staff, so just be cautious of those, especially if you're bringing it to a Hellgate, because they are very common in there. Also, be careful if you're fighting multiple enemies at once, because after you one-shot one enemy, you have very little escape abilities. So, if you're using this versus a large group of enemies, try and pick off one without using your assassin jacket. Get as much distance as you can with your E, and if you're forced to use your assassin jacket, use it, then put as much distance as you can between you and the person who you're trying to run away from. If you do the combo properly, this build can easily output upwards of 2,500 DPS onto a Clothy, or around 2,000 on a leather user. The more spec you have with Deathgivers, the higher your damage will be and the more effective this build will be. I have a lot of spec, so it's very effective for me, but even if you have low spec, just keep in mind that you might want to be wearing higher tier equipment than you would usually be wearing. If you're with a group that has lockdown, this build is amazing, especially if you're trying to open world gank or do something similar. Also, keep in mind, purges. If somebody has a mage robe, you have to be super careful of them because their mage robe will remove your stacks and you'll be left there out to dry. Also, reflex can seriously harm you if you're not careful. However, I believe that even with all these drawbacks, this build is still much better than the one with dash because its skill sync is ridiculously high, and the more and more you use it, the better you'll get to basically no end. I've been playing with Deathgivers for a really long time. I probably have over 600 hours spent just using that weapon alone, and I'm still learning new mechanics that you're able to complete. I was saying earlier, the main combo that you want to do is Assassin Spirit, Assassin Jacket, or Ambush. As soon as your stacks get up to 3, you want to Hellion Shoe onto the person you want to one-shot. Once your Hellion Shoe goes onto them, you want to auto-attack W, E, D, and then E again. I messed up there as I lost my stacks. That is also something that you have to be very careful of with this build, but I think you get the general idea. You also must be wearing a Thetford cape and using beef stew, otherwise you will not have enough damage and this build will be a lot less effective. If you take this into open world, be mindful of, as I said, multiple enemies, reflex, mage cowls, and mage robes and life touch staffs. But besides that, this build basically has no flaws or very little at that. You can beat cultist robe players very easily because they will often not expect the damage and save their cultist robe until they're about 75% health. Even if you have really low spec, if you do the combo properly, even if you're in 4 flat, you're able to one-shot anybody as soon as they drop below 75% health. I hope you guys appreciate this arena gameplay and the video in general. If you have any questions, please comment them down below, and I'll try and respond to as many as I can. I'll see you guys next time with some more Deathgivers or Galatine gameplay.